Hey everybody, welcome to Bestie Book Reviews. I'm here with my bestie Mandy.
And I'm here with my sick bestie, Jessica. And not sick like in the head.
Well, that's debatable.
True.
Yep,
My
we all
sick
have,
times two bestie.
yes, we all have the dreaded cold here this weekend. My husband's worse because he has the man cold this weekend, but
I don't know. I think I've heard you complaining more than I've heard your husband.
that's because he's complaining so much I can't handle it. There's nobody here for me. So that's okay. Anyhow, I have a little bit of a sinus cold going on. We're fine. We're good. So it's time to do our 1 minute book recs. This is where we do go. Oh my gosh.
I'll just take over.
Thank you.
Okay. It is time now for our 1 minute book recs. This is where we go over all the books that we've read with a 1 minute rec, unless we go over the timer. Jessica.
Mandy. Anyhow. So
don't forget. All right, okay. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to make sure you are entered into our Road to 1K giveaway. We have lots of fun books to give away and lots of fun things planned. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and like and comment the video too. You can also follow us on Instagram for an extra entry.
Yay. Okay, that's
all right, Jessica. Tell me about your reading week.
Oh my gosh, this is so weird doing it this way. I had a good reading week. I read 10 books this week, and I think I had either 2 or 3 5 stars. I didn't count my 5 stars. I'm not as good as you are at 5 stars. I had one very questionable, what the heck did I just read, even though I knew it was going to be weird going into it book. So we'll talk about that. But I had a pretty good reading week. How about you? What was yours like?
So I read 7 books. Apparently your talking has now come over to my side.
Sorry.
Okay. I have read 7 books this week, which actually surprised me that I had 7 done because I felt like I didn't have much time to read in this time leading up to Christmas and all the stuff going on, like kids still are in sports and all that stuff. So it's just been a very busy time. So I was surprised I got 7 in. And I had 2 5 stars. One is a 5-star favorite, like really favorite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to get started?
We are ready. Do you have the timer ready?
I have the timer ready.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to go first.
Yes.
Don't act all surprised this time.
I'm not. I'm ready. I'm good. Next week. Yeah. Okay. So the first book I read was Unexpected. This is by Elizabeth. I'm not sure if it's Aton or Aton or Aton. I don't know how we say it because she had like some pronunciation stuff there, and I'm not great with that. Anyhow, this is a rock star romance. This is about Whit, who is a single father to a little girl. He's a rock star, but he doesn't go out and party anymore. And after a concert one night, he just decides to go to this club. And then you have our heroine, who is Ava, and she is having a really having a really hard time just with life in general. And she's a waitress, and she decides to go across the street one night. She's been pinching pennies, and she's like, I'm not doing this anymore. I just need to have a little me time. And so she goes across the street to this nightclub, and that is where the two of them meet up. They end up having a one night stand. They don't exchange any information, but there are repercussions to that one night stand. And so, or just in general from just meeting and stuff. So this is their story. This is Elizabeth's first book, and you would never know it was her first book. It was so good. I gave it 5 stars. I loved it. Loved it.
I'm so glad you loved it. I did too.
This was for our
really good
my best theories that we just did. So
and there are some things that happen in that book that easily become like very cliche in books, and it is not like that at all.
No.
Like I actually finished it and then I was like, oh, this happened and this happened, but not like how you would normally think it happens.
Yeah.
And she's very down on her luck. But yet, I mean, I really felt for her. Like, it's like these shitty things kept happening, and it didn't have that soap opera feel, you know, where like, you're like, how many things can what happen to one person? Like, come on. No, like, you just feel for her. Like, oh my gosh, like, what would this be like if these things actually happened to me?
Exactly. So, yes, I loved it. It was good.
Okay. My first book this week was called A Chance Encounter by Nikki Ash. This is about Sophia and Easton. Sophia is 18 years old, and she must live somewhere different than where we live because she's already working in a bar. Where we live, you have to be 21 to go into a bar. But anyways, so she finds out that her boyfriend actually has a fiance, and she finds this out when she is getting ready to tell him that she is pregnant. So she moves clear across the country and just kind of starts her life. She has a cousin who lives in New York, and so her cousin invites her to come live with her. And so this is what she does, and she is raising her daughter. I think at the time of, well, like when we get to the next part, like that's like the prologue where that stuff goes down. And so I think her daughter's like 6 or 7 at the time, and she's working to put herself through law school. And she happens to be at a park where she meets this stranger. There's a lady who is doing these like photos of chance encounters in the park type thing. And she gets them to kind of act like they're a couple and kiss and stuff. And they immediately have chemistry, and they go back to his hotel and have, I would call it a one night stand, but it's more like a 1 day stand because it's during the daytime. And she ends up pregnant. This is not a shocker, like it's in the blurb for the book. She has no idea who this guy is, so she has to try and figure out what to do. Like, she doesn't want to keep him in the dark, but she doesn't know who he is. Turns out he's a pretty famous rock star. Dun, dun, dun.
I think
Yes, 4 stars. Really enjoyed it.
I think we both had several rock star romances this week.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm pretty sure we both did. Not intentionally, it's just the way it is. Just the way the cookies crumble. So
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so my next book is an author who we're gonna see in Vegas when we go back to Vegas this next fall. So I wanted to try one of her books. And let's talk about that one. So okay. This is Not Your Damn Omega, and it is by Devin Sinclair. So this one had like the bones. Jessica. Hey, leave me alone with my Omega verse. This one had the right idea. It just kind of felt a little short for me. So this is about Esme. She is the sister to an extremely famous, her twin is extremely famous, and they are identical twins. And so, sorry if you guys can hear the train. So she gets a lot of there's a lot of packs that want her because she's basically the consolation prize. Her sister already has a pack. They're both Omegas, and she's just like the sister. Sister, I think, is an actress, and she's just like her sister in looks and everything. But she has to follow all these rules to not take the attention away from her sister. Her parents were famous in their own right as well, so she's grown up with all of this around her. One night, her sister talks her into going out. When she goes out, she goes to a club. She meets a guy. Immediately, their scent match situation happens, and she knows that this is her guy. He has a pack. They want to date her to see if she's the right fit for their pack, which great and all, but like up until that point, when we get into where she's dating them, it's pretty good. It ended up being 3.5 stars, and it's because she has a lot of trauma from being like having to live up to her sister's image and people wanting to date her because of her sister, so she doesn't trust as much. It just got to be old and repetitive, where it was like she constantly has this trauma because of it, and she can't trust them because of what happened to her, and she doesn't know whether or not to choose them because of what, and it was like, this is getting really old. So the story had a great premise. It just got it was just too repetitive. Like, deal with your trauma then. Do something about it. So, it was just hard. It was really hard to get through.
There's a fine line in writing where you need to make sure your reader has the right information and they understand it. And then there is like being repetitive. Like, we got it. You don't have to keep telling me this. I read a book this week where I knew he was older than her, but it kept doing these like flashbacks and stuff. And so I was like, wait, so how old is he now? And how old is she? And like, I kept trying to figure it out. And like, it was frustrating. I'm like, so you've got to keep that information there without it being repetitive and like too in their face.
Yeah, something you're gonna have to learn. Now, I don't know if her writing was okay as far as writing style. It was just that I get that she has these hangups, but you didn't need to keep beating it to death. over and over again. So the book could have been a lot shorter had you not had to do that. So, yeah.
Okay, and just so our viewers know, was this while you were sick and possibly in a mood, or is this an honest
This was last
review?
weekend while I was wrapping Christmas presents, so I was not sick yet.
Okay.
All right. So tell me about your next one.
So my next book is called River Wild by Samantha Toll.
Yeah.
So. Okay. This is about Carrie and River. So Carrie is pregnant, and she just finds out she's pregnant. Her husband is a police officer, and he is abusive and not a good man. And so when she finds out she's pregnant, she's like, this is like the catalyst that she needed to flee him. So she does, and she sneaks off kind of while he's off at work and leaves no trace behind because she's terrified he will find her, and she does not want that to happen. So she goes somewhere that she thinks he would be least likely to look for her and all that stuff. And she gets to this town, and she gets a house, and it is next to River. River has had a pretty horrific life. We read about it at the very beginning. I actually called Jessica, and I'm like, I really need to get through this prologue quickly because I don't like this abuse that is happening like on these first 2 pages. I just didn't care. I just don't like that kind of thing. Like, I don't want to read about kids being abused. But anyways, you kind of have to know that so you understand why he is the way he is. So he's massively grumpy. I'm not even sure to like calling this grumpy sunshine would be accurate because he's like cold, closed off, and he's just a rude jerk at the start of it. And he starts to he does some really shitty things because he just doesn't give a shit. Yep. But he slowly starts to kind of warm up a little bit and feel for her. And I just loved it. It was 5 stars. I loved it.
Yeah, it was good. Really good. I remember that. I read it a while ago, and it was pretty dang good. I remember that.
Yeah, very good.
Yep. Okay. All right. The lights, because I don't feel good, they make my nose tingle. So if I'm rubbing, it's because it makes me feel funny. Okay. Just saying. So I read a Ruby Dixon book next, but no, it was not Ice Planet Barbarian. Okay. So I read When She Belongs. And this is part of her Coruscars series. I think it's number 4 in the Coruscars, I thought is what it said. I could be wrong. But this is about Sophie. And we've seen Sophie previously, I believe, in one of the Rizdiverse books, just for all of a few minutes. She was a slave to this other race. This guy owned her. She was basically a sex slave for him. And she was rescued by this group of guys who are pirates. Basically, they're space pirates. They're junkers. They go out and they rob other places, and they sell the stuff, the other spaceships, and they sell the stuff, and they're all the big blue Masaka guys. But anyhow, they look at her as a sister. There's nothing sexual between them and her. And they get into a situation where they have to go to a different planet. They have to go somewhere else to try, there's this treasure they found out about. They got to go hunt it. But they don't want to take her because of her PTSD and her trauma, because she had been a slave to these guys for 6 years. And it's just not safe for her. And so they leave her with a buddy of theirs who is Jarok. He's Jarok the Jerk. And he lives on an asteroid, almost like a junker thing, almost like a little junkyard on an asteroid. And he is an absolute dick. But he's also part cyborg because he was he has a few limbs. Of
course he is.
Of course he is. Because he was in a war and all this good stuff. So it is really, I gave it 4 stars. I really liked it. Their story is a little bit longer than what normally we get from Ruby. And it explores, they both have PTSD, they both have issues, but there's also some really funny moments in it, and it was good. It was good. I don't think you have to read the other Coruscant books because I haven't yet. So I just went into this one.
Oh, that's good to know. So I was gonna run out and grab that, and now I know I
can. Yeah, I know. You were just dying to do it. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, so my next, darn it, my timer. Okay, my next book was Pucked Love by Helena Hunting. This finished the series for me. This is about Charlene and Darren. uh they have, like, the book starts off great, and then all of a sudden we skip 2 years later, and really not a lot has progressed in their relationship. They don't live together, which that's okay if that's where you're at. But it was weird to me because they, like, do a lot of things together, wink wink, but they don't spend the night at each other's houses. They don't, like, it was just really weird. It's like they're in this relationship but still at the very surface level, but yet they are a little bit deeper than that. So it was just odd to me that they, like, the storyline, and I'm like, I don't really know why I'm reading this book. Like, what exactly is the plot? They're already together, but their relationship is just kind of dysfunctional. So we're going to just work our way through this dysfunction of the relationship. Like, I just didn't really, they both have, like, messed up home lives, which kind of, like, how they were brought up, which kind of explains why they're closed off and kind of weird. But it's been 2 years, and I wasn't invested in them, I guess, was the problem. And so that's why I didn't really see why we needed to work through these issues. Well, I mean, obviously they did, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, I
Yeah.
don't need to be a part of it. I gave it 3 stars.
Okay.
I'm
one of those.
alone because it's rated at, like, a 4 point something. So clearly I just wasn't invested in other people
Clearly.
Again, writing is still great. I just didn't get the point of the book.
When it comes to romance, it's poop or get off the pot, okay? People do it or don't do it, but dragging it out for 2 years? No, I don't want to read that either. I don't blame you. So, the next book that I read this week, you read it like a week or two ago. I can't remember how long ago. And you loved it, but this was the one that was on my TBR for the month, and you were like, "Oh, I read it, and
I stole it from you."
You didn't really.
I didn't mean to.
It's not like you couldn't read it. It is okay for you to read the books that I have on my TBR.
It was just funny because when I was reading, I'm like, "Oh, Jessica would love this," and then I realized it was one of from your TBR.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's the one time a book has popped up on Facebook and I've read it and I've been like, "Ooh, I really like this." A lot of times the Facebook idea ones are not
kind of like
my cup
TikTok.
of
It
tea.
leads you.
Yeah.
Misleading. But this one is called Rush, and it's by Emma Scott. Mandy loved it. I liked it a lot too. So this one is about Charlotte and Noah. So Charlotte is Juilliard. She's gone to school at Juilliard. She is a progeny. She plays the violin, but there has been something that has happened within the past year. She's somewhat lost her muse, and because of circumstances, and so she's working like a waitressing job. She lives with a whole bunch of roommates, and she's just having a hard time. The roommates it's kind of a crazy situation. It's chaos that she's living in, and she hasn't really picked up her violin for several months. And then you have Noah. So Noah is a extreme sports guy, and he works for a magazine, or worked for a magazine, where he would go on these trips, do these crazy things, and write about it. And so he, about a year prior, had an accident that has left him blind. So not only is he blind, he's bitter about the fact that he is blind. And one day Charlotte is delivering food, because she works for the restaurant, to him, or to his house, or wherever he lives. And she ends up calling him, I think, a prick or something, and he hears it because he's a jerk. But anyhow, that leads to her being hired on as his companion, his assistant. And so this is their story. So you have somebody who's struggling with the fact that he is newly blind, and he's hating the world because he is not getting to live the way he used to, and that is hard for him to accept. And then she's also dealing with some stuff of her own too. So it was great. 5 stars. Loved it. It was so good. The audio was great. So we both, you gave it 5 stars too, didn't you?
Yeah.
That
was good.
Yeah. Good. So that one's a keeper, guys. That one's a keeper.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What else you got for me?
Okay, my next book is called Fluke by Adriana Lock. This is part of the Carmichael series that I'm working my way through. So this is about Jess Carmichael and Pippa. And Pippa works at this place that does like couples things, and she's trying to get this promotion, and there's this guy that works there that's kind of a jerk, and he gives her a hard time and basically calls her out and says there's no way that she would be good at this because she isn't even in a relationship. And she just off the cuff throws out, well, actually, I'm divorced and my ex-husband still loves me and adores me and we get along great. And while she gets the promotion, and he throws this back in her face and suggests that she take her ex-husband on this retreat that she's planned to see if they like to test it out before they launch it to the public to see if it would really work. And so he sees her again later outside of work and is giving her a hard time, basically calling her a liar, which technically she was, but and Jess happens to be there, and he walks up and realizes kind of what's going on. And so he pretends to be this ex, and he's always had a crush on her. So that's kind of where we launch their story.
Okay.
Solid 4-star rate.
Okay.
Right.
All right. So next I read Obsessed with His Bride by B.B. Hamill. Yeah. Okay. So this is about Dante and Ada. So the book starts out, and Dante is meeting with this guy who supposedly stole from the Russians. He's mafia, and he stole from Russians who they're fighting with the Russians all the time, right? So he stole a lot of money from the Russians, not realizing that he was stealing from the Russians, or at least he says he didn't. And in order to make things better with Dante, this guy says, I got something for you in the back. Dante's bodyguard goes over there, and lo and behold, he finds Ada, who is this guy's daughter. And he's like, take my daughter, she can be your bride, and that will make everything good, right? No. He ends up taking Ada, but he doesn't force her to marry him. I'm not even sure why. And like the whole bride thing doesn't happen till quite a ways into the book. He's not obsessed with her. I mean, I'm sorry. Anyhow, he deals with Dad, keeps Ada because the Russians are going to come after Ada now because of what Dad did. But yet she's free to go, but he's going to keep her. So it was 3 stars. Ada does a lot of stupid shit. And I can't stand when an author writes a heroine who does stupid stuff. There are Russians after you. You're in a world that you know nothing about. What the heck is wrong with you? Quit doing stupid stuff. And then you've got Aiden, who is a nice gangster. If you're going to write mafia, they can't be nice gangsters. They can be good to the girl, but they're mafia. I know that I'm sick and I'm in a mood, but
Okay.
I'm done. It was 3 stars. I kind of sort of enjoyed it somewhat here and there. And I wasn't sick when I listened to it. So this is my serious thing. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
My next book is called Cruel Lies by Lillian Harris. This is about Nicolette and Raph. And Raph is much older than Nicolette. This is the book I told you I got confused about how old everybody was. So Raph is much older, and he dates her sister and marries her sister, but she's in love with him, but she's very young. Like she's still a teenager living at home when he is dating and marrying her sister. Her sister ends up being murdered, and she ends up going on the run. And his brother finds her and takes her to a safe house and has Raph come sit with her while he tries to figure out what's going on with all of this stuff. And the whole story is told like in flashbacks to everything. And I don't mind flashbacks. And I love a good age gap romance. And when I was like, ooh, he married her sister and she's in love with him, I love this. I got kind of bored The flashbacks, for whatever reason, it just didn't work because I didn't really see what their connection was. He's significantly older and he is acting more like a father figure to her and not like in a creepy way. And then all of a sudden, like feelings kind of change, which I've read books where that happens and it works. I just didn't get it in this book. And so I just kind of got bored at times and I didn't really see why they were. I could see why she would maybe have a crush on him, but I didn't see why his feelings were being returned. Like that development, I just didn't get. I rated it 3 stars. Again, this is a book that I was probably alone on because it's like over 4 stars, 4 point something on Goodreads, but for whatever reason, I just didn't get that invested in it.
I get it. After I have crappy reads like that, or reads, not that book that I just read was crappy. It just wasn't what I was wanting. It wasn't what I was wanting. I had to go back and do some rereads. Again, I was wrapping Christmas presents, so nobody should be surprised that my next book is an Ice Planet Barbarian book. Did you see the face? Did you guys see the face she just made? Anyhow, this is the second in the Ice Home series. This is Veronica's Dragon. I warned you guys you would be seeing some Ice Planet Barbarians this month, and I'm not.
Some.
Like it's like 2 a week. Chill out. Anyhow, Veronica's Dragon. So this is the second, like I said, in the Ice Home series. So we have this new group who has arrived on the planet. All the guys are gladiators. And then you've got all the human women who were at one point going to be slaves or sold wherever out in the universe, and they're here on the planet instead. So Veronica is klutzy, clumsy. She's just your
There's
average
nothing
woman.
wrong with that.
What? Being klutzy? Oh, I know. It's okay, Mandy. It's okay. So she immediately, the big golden guy is attracted to her, like immediately before they even have their cooties. The funniest scene happens in the beginning of this book when they're having a conversation with the big blue guys, and one of the guys is like, well, can I mate them if they trip and accidentally fall on my, hilarious. It's my favorite scene. Anyhow, turns out he's not just this big golden guy, he's a dragon. And yes, he can shift into a dragon. Anyhow, I love their story. Stop laughing. It is. So I've talked about Ruby Dixon has this post-apocalyptic one that happens here on Earth where they're all dragons. It's the same kind of dragon situation. This ties both of those together. Are you done?
If we played this clip to random people on the street.
I am not the only one who loves Ice Planet Barbarians. I'm sorry. I'm not. There are lots of us out there.
Turns out he's a dragon.
Dragon shifter. You done?
I don't know. I think we should go to Barnes and Noble and just stand in the romance section and be like, let me tell you about this book. And then you should just start going off.
That would be fun. Can we do that when we go to Seattle? There's a big one when I meet you later this month.
I'll film the person's reaction. When you're like, and then he's a dragon.
Like, no, ma'am, I don't work here, but let me tell you about this book. This one isn't on the shelves at Barnes and Noble. Just the first few of Ruby's books are.
And then, like, you'll get escorted out because they'll think you're on drugs.
Probably when I start talking about the books I don't like at Barnes and Noble, which is 90% of them. 99% of them. So, okay, please tell me about your next book and stop laughing at my.
I'm so sorry to disappoint everyone. This is about just 2 normal humans. Okay, so my next book is called Flaunt by Adriana Lock. This is book 4 in the Carmichael series, and this is about Banks and Sarah. I was really looking forward to this book because I just really like Banks. And honestly, at this point, I'm reading this series because I just love the dynamic in the family. And the storyline for the romance is just like an extra bonus at this point in time with this. So Banks and Sarah have this banter between them because Sarah is Ashley's best friend who's married to Maddox. And they just have this like banter that kind of borderlines on like a frenemies type thing. But for whatever reason, Banks, like in his point of view, quite often he like talks about he doesn't understand what it is, but he just gets so riled up by her. And then he like wants her, but he doesn't want her and he doesn't want anybody else to have her. And just he's like a little confused a little bit about all these feelings that she brings to the forefront. Sarah is a pretty broken heroine who is just really struggling with the idea of love because she kind of just grew up in a home where she wasn't really neglected in the sense of being abused or not taken care of, but she was neglected in the sense of that she didn't really grow up in a loving home. Does that make sense? And so she's just feeling kind of down on herself a little bit. And so this has like some forced proximity, lots of different stuff going on. I enjoyed it. 4 stars. Nobody shifted into dragons, but there are chickens in the book. Real chickens. Nobody's a chicken. Oh, this is fantastic. Jessica is
Why
muted.
Did you do that?
No.
That just did that automatically.
That's a great idea. The next time you go on a tangent, I'm just going to try and figure out how to mute you from over here.
No, the next book, but they're not human, though, either.
Oh, dear.
And it is a reread. But they're not aliens.
Okay. Seriously, in January, you are not allowed to read. You are on what is January is like the no drink month. What do they call that? Dry January.
I don't know, but you can't tell me what I can and can't read.
Just dry January. So you're
dry January.
I think that's what people call it. And
so.
You are going to be on a dry alien.
Okay, listen.
No, then you're just going to find some weird romance
what does that
the alien has dry skin or something.
Helen, listen. Remember, I do the opposite of what you tell me. Because there's this little piece of me that rebels every time you tell me what I can and can't read. So you're not going to want to start out telling me I can't read any aliens because...
I'll just start editing all the aliens out.
Oh, no, because I'm not the only one who enjoys a little alien. This book is not alien, by the way.
You just said they weren't human.
They aren't.
Vampires? Monsters?
No. I did a reread of aath. They're fae.
What did you call that?
Called aath. A Court of Mist and Fury. Aath. It's all the first letters.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk.
Sounds like you're saying aftermath.
No, it's because my nose is pointed up.
I know. Math. That's why I was questioning what you were saying. I thought you wanted to talk about math. Okay. Go ahead.
Never. Okay. I know that this series is extremely popular. I'm sure like almost everybody's read it by now. But I did do a reread of this. This is A Court of Mist and Fury. This is the second book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. This takes place right after or shortly after the first book ends. This is Feyre's story being continued on. We see a lot more of Rhys in this book. We see the Night Court in this book. But this is her dealing with the repercussions of what happened at the end of this first book. And that's really pretty much all I can tell you guys because it gives everything away if I say anything else. So, we start out with her and Tamlin back in the Spring Court, and we just, there's because of what happened at the end of the second book, or first book, it propels the second book. But Feyre really comes into her own. She starts to learn who she is in this book. I love this series. I do read some fantasy every once in a while, but this was like my first real big fantasy series, and it still holds a special place. So I listened to it while I was wrapping Christmas presents this week.
Okay. So my next book and my last book, it's a book I've been waiting for a very long time for it to come out.
Me too.
So very, very excited to get the arc. So when this comes out, this book is available December 26th. This video will be out on Christmas Day. I don't know how many people are going to watch it. So when you're watching this, it may already be out, but it comes out officially on December 26th. So this was my arc. So excited. I don't even want to give myself a timer.
You have to give yourself a timer. And first of all, we want to say thank you to Karen for sending us the arcs because that was a surprise. That was like the best Christmas surprise ever.
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my book is Echoes of Him by Karen Crompton. This is Kale and Sienna's story. So excited. So if you've read Lyrics of Her, you know that Kale is a mess. And if you haven't read Lyrics of Her, you could read Echoes of Him without having read that. And I think you would be just fine because this really focuses wholeheartedly on Kale. But if you read Lyrics of Her, you kind of see a little bit more of Kale like spinning out of control. So you can kind of understand why when the book opens up, he has been given the ultimatum. You either go to rehab or you're out of the band. So he, of course, goes to rehab. In rehab, he meets Sienna, who is his therapist. So Sienna doesn't care that he's in a band. She doesn't care that he's famous. She might care just a little bit that he's good looking. But his normal, like, I'm Kale, I'm in this band, I get what I want, I do who I want type attitude just doesn't really fly here. So what you have is you have them truly, like, she wants to help him, and to help him she has to get to know him and figure out what's really going on that's driving his drinking and such. And so this is a very slow burn, but not in the way where you're like, seriously, we're only this far into the book and like da da da. Like it does not feel like that at all. Like, in fact, when the book was over, I was like, what, we're done? Like, but so it's a slow burn. Also, it has a curvy girl heroine, which normally curvy girl books drive me insane. And we've talked a little bit about this because it becomes obsessive. And you usually, like, when you have a description of what the person looks like, the heroine might be like, oh, he's so hot, like, oh, his muscles, his washboard abs. And then like the hero might make comments about how beautiful she is, things like that, but we kind of just move on. In curvy girl romances, I have found that we become fixated with the fact that the chick is curvy and there's all these comments on it, and it gets old really quick because it's like, just like, I get it, she's overweight, let's move on. Like, this can't be the focus of the book.
Yep.
This does not do this. This addresses that she's a little more curvy, but she's not really insecure about it. She's kind of like, this is just who I am. I like chocolate cake. We move on.
We all do.
And he does not obsess about it. He doesn't make comment, like, he truly feels that she's beautiful. And so we don't hear him like making comments about it. There is a situation that happens where it's kind of brought up, but it's done in such a way that you just can be like, that guy's a jerk. And we can all relate to knowing a guy who's a jerk, who behaves like this other guy. So I just absolutely loved how well that was done. So this book, everybody knows I love Karen Crompton if you've watched her channel very much. This is my favorite Karen Crompton book to date. I loved this story. Loved it.
Which says a lot because I haven't read a Karen Crompton book I don't like. So if you haven't read Lyrics of Her, which is the first book in this series, like Mandy said, they're standalone, so you can read them without having read Lyrics of Her. But on the 26th, on Boxing Day, when this book comes out, Echoes of Him comes out, Lyrics of Her will be free through Amazon for a limited time after Christmas sale. So Karen told me that last week, and I can't remember for how long, but it is going to be free if you want to get Lyrics of Her in the Christmas sales, and then you can read Echoes of Him.
Do yourself a favor, get them both.
Do that.
So good.
Do that.
Then once you've read those, go back and work on her backlist. It's not super long. She has 6 books out total now.
And then I start Echoes of Him today. So yay, because I had another arc I had to get through, but that we're going to talk about. But we're not talking about it yet. Now we're going to talk about Lauren Beale's latest release.
Okay.
You guys know I like Lauren Beale's books. Her stuff is darker and crazier. This one, I don't even have words. This one is Frisky the Snowman. This is a novelette. This is 58 pages long. This is, she says in this over and over again, do not take this seriously. This was just for fun. But this is about Holly and Frisky, the snowman. Holly is turned on by snow. And Holly goes and builds herself a snowman. And he gets appendages. Like, biggest carrot she's ever found. And then Snowman may or may not come to life. But yup. That's all I can tell you. It's 58 pages. I can't tell you anything else. This is not the weirdest thing I've ever read. I did give it 4 stars for what it is. But Holly's a freak? Man, is she a freak? She's a freak. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, it was weird, but not the weirdest. So, just came out this week. I mean, I had to. It was Lauren Beale. Then I was like, what the hell?
I read extremely normal things this week, and you're just way out in left field.
I'm always way out in left field. That's
Not
why we
always.
work well together.
Sometimes you read normal stuff, but this time
Sometimes.
you just...
Not this week. I like to keep it fun. All right, you ready for my next book? This next book is a 5-star read. I'm like obsessed with this next book so much. You ready? I told you about this one a little bit already. I
can't wait to hear about it.
So this one is called Take Me With You by Nina G. Jones. This book, check triggers, because oh my gosh, like she starts out saying, this is not a romance. I mean, it's a romance, but it's not a romance because our main male character is completely unhinged. So this is a stalker, captor, captive romance. So this is about Vesper and Sam. This takes place, I believe, in 1978. It's in the late 70s, either 76 or 78. You have to have it then, otherwise the situations wouldn't work because we have too much secured, like too much with the cell phones and cameras and that kind of stuff now. But Sam is crazy. Sam stalks people, typically couples, and he will watch them and stalk them for months, and like break into their homes and leave things throughout the house every time he breaks in, so that when he decides it's time, when he breaks into their house for the night that he's going to break into it, he has everything already in their house and staged, so that when he tells the female to tie up the male, and like all the rope and everything's already there. And then he will violate the female and he will live their life in their home for the night. So he is crazy. He meets Vesper, who he sees her in a grocery store one day. She has a little brother who has cerebral palsy. Sam has major trauma. He's scarred. He barely talks because of trauma when he was young. And so he sees Vesper with her little brother and how amazing she is with her little brother. And he decides that she's going to be his next target, but there's something, he is really obsessed with her. She has a boyfriend. One night something happens with the boyfriend and it pushes his timeline up. He decides he's going to act that night when he's not prepared. And when that happens, other things transpire. And instead of just being there for the night, because she's afraid of what he's going to do to her little brother, she says, take me with you. And he takes her with him and he keeps her captive for almost a year. And there's a lot of heavy things in this book, but oh my gosh, it was so good. I one of my favorites of the month. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I cannot stress this enough. Please check those trigger warnings. Please check those triggers. So freaking good. Okay. Next.
How you go from reading about a snowman to that is just perplexing.
Okay. So then this last one is the arc that I got this week. One of the arcs that I got this week, I got a couple of them, but this one is by Grace McGinty. This is her, it's called The Daymakers. This is her newest release. It comes out on the 28th. So this is a Rockstar reverse harem. And this is about Charlotte, who is our heroine. The first chapter is really hard to get through. It's not a dark romance at all, but she is fleeing her abusive boyfriend who has beat her pretty severely in the beginning of this book. And she's running from him. She sees a venue, there's a concert going on at this venue. She scales the fence with what she believes to be broken ribs, but she's trying to get away. She knows he's going to kill her. And she hides under a bus, a tour bus type thing, or a van. And the security guard finds her. Shep finds her and runs off the boyfriend before he can see her. And then he takes her to the medic, and they try to help her that night. They tell her she can stay the night. The next day, she's having breakfast with Shep, who is kind of like the manager, and then this guy who's in charge of the tour. And they're talking about how the four guys in the band keep getting into trouble. Nobody can know their identity. They wear masks. So if you are a girl that likes the masked bad boys, these guys all wear masks. Nobody knows their identity. And so because they're getting in trouble with girls who want to lift up their masks when they're getting down and dirty with them, she agrees for a certain amount of cash to be their companion for the tour. But she has to be masked when she's with them. 5 stars. 5 frigging stars. There's so much more to this story than what it sounds like. So much more. You guys know I love Grace McGinty. This was good. Her writing is always amazing, and it's easy to love her writing. But this story, 4 masked guys. She ends up with 5, but 4 masked guys.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right.
So that's what I have. All right. So I'm gonna let you close it because my throat's killing me.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. Did you get any books under the tree? If you did, let us know in the comments below. What are you looking forward to reading this week? Tell us all the bookish things in those comments. Make sure to check back on Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for new videos from us. And there will be one more Romance School 101 video coming out on Wednesday, and that wraps up that series. So make sure to check that as well. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we will see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching, guys.